When my parents divorced, they both scrambled to take my younger sister, but they seemed desperate to avoid me. In the end, I was awarded to my father. My mother held my sister's hand and watched gleefully as my father slapped me, hit her hard. Kill her, then you won't have to support her anymore, what a relief. My new stepmother, who had just come through the door, scooped me up. From now on I'm your mother. Do you understand? Later, I bought a villa and a luxury car for my stepmother, and my birth mother, who hadn't been seen for years, was once again lying in a hospital bed, crying to me and begging me to save her. I smiled and pried open her fingers. As for you, go ahead and die in peace. It had been less than half a year since the divorce when my father married again. The woman was divorced, 3 years younger than him. On the day of the wedding, I was locked in the storage room. My father warned me, if you cause any trouble, I'll beat you to death. In the evening, after the guests had left and the house had slowly fallen silent, I sneaked into the kitchen. While cooking instant noodles, the tea kettle accidentally tipped over and scalding water poured over me. I couldn't help but scream. The opposite door creaked open and a woman, hearing the noise, hurried in. What happened? Where did you get burned? The woman picked me up. There was a faint, pleasant scent about her. You must be Sarah, right? I nodded, eyeing the dried fruits on her bed and swallowing. She had brought me lots of tasty things. I hesitated for a few seconds and didn't dare take any. Promise you won't tell my dad, okay? Why? The teapot broke. I'll get beaten, the woman said with an oath. I won't tell him. I still wasn't reassured. Pinky promise. Pinky promise. I ate ravenously, like a bandit chief. The woman watched me and began to laugh. Do you know who I am? I didn't answer. From today on, I'm your mother. I froze, my mind racing through the fairy tales I'd read, Snow White and the Wicked Queen, Cinderella and the scheming stepmother. I'm doomed. It's over for me. I stared blankly at my stepmother. She frowned and asked, why are your pants dirty? My heart clenched. I scrambled off the bed and saw the clean duvet cover stained with a large blotch. I kept my head down and bolted for the bathroom, but my stepmother grabbed me. Why aren't you using a pad when you're on your period? My whole face flamed crimson, as if I'd been slapped. Don't say that word. My stepmother looked puzzled. Which word? That one. What do you mean, that one? Isn't it just a period? Didn't anyone ever teach you? I kept silent as my stepmother's gaze toward me grew increasingly complicated. The first day I got my period I ruined my pants. A classmate's mother comforted me, saying it was a good thing, proof that I was growing up, and even suggested having our parents make something nice to eat for me. I rushed home excitedly, but before I could open my mouth, I got slapped hard across the face. My mother stood with her hands on her hips, kicked me to the ground, her loud voice piercing my eardrums. Have you no shame? Parading that ass around all day like you're begging for attention. Are you trying to show everyone you're cut out to be a whore? You're so desperate, why are you even going to school? Tomorrow I'll tell your homeroom teacher, and you'll be standing in a nightclub. Let's see which blind man would fancy you. I clutched my trousers, slowly got up, stumbled and tried to explain to my mother, but she cut me off immediately. Your pants are dirty, who's going to wash them for you? Who's going to wash them? Do you think I'm the maid, here to serve only you? If you go a single day without acting like a tramp you get all frantic. I was 13 that year, and had spent a day kneeling on the bathroom floor because of my period. Mom, my pants are dirty, I'm still bleeding. Let it bleed, what good is telling me? Get into your room, you disgraceful thing. I had never used a sanitary pad. Every month when my period came, it felt like a massive humiliation test. When I bled I would pad myself with toilet paper, and if I took too much I'd be scolded for being selfish. If my pants got stained, the boys in class would whistle and jeer, and my mother would sneer, what are you pretending to be? Trying to build a shrine while acting like a whore, I think you're just cheap. I later learned that day my younger sister had developed an impetigo blister on her face, which might affect the video shoot the next day. my mother, angry and anxious, took it out on me. My stepmother was the first to teach me how to use a sanitary pad. She told me there was nothing shameful about it. She picked me up, looked me in the eye, and said, "From now on I'm your mother, understand? My younger sister is very pretty, big eyes, fair skin. Though we're biological sisters, we don't resemble each other at all. When she was very young she became a child model and earned a lot of money, she was everyone's beloved treasure." My parents sighed more than once. If only Sophia had been born first, then none of this with Sarah would have happened. Even our names are worlds apart. When my sister was born, my parents practically tore the dictionary apart and even consulted a master of divination, naming her Sophia, meaning happiness and fulfillment, that everything would go smoothly. I'm called Sarah, nothing special, just the extra one in the family. So when they divorced, my parents each grabbed one of my sister's arms and fought fiercely over who would get custody of her. "Sophia, be good, follow your mother. Mama will buy you a princess dress, the most beautiful kind, and take you to France. Don't listen to your mother's nonsense, Daddy is the one who loves you most. I've already bought the house for Sophia." They argued and argued. The judge took my hand and, a little awkwardly, asked, "Which of you wants the eldest daughter?" In an instant, my parents each took half a step back. One wailed that their financial situation was poor and they couldn't afford to raise me. The other claimed to be rough and careless, unsuited to taking care of a child. In the end my younger sister was awarded to my mother, and my mother's mouth almost split from smiling. My father, furious, slapped me across the face, "You damn jinx. I should have strangled you or drowned you when you were born." My mom watched with glee from the side, hit her hard. "Beat her to death, then you won't have to support her anymore, much simpler." All I could do was curl up tightly and keep my mouth shut. As long as I didn't argue or open my lips, I'd suffer a little less of the physical pain. After my stepmother arrived, my days actually got better. She braided my hair, made breakfast, took me to school, and even bought me several new outfits. At least I no longer had my hands covered in frostbite all winter. My mother's natal family looked down on her. My grandmother said no stepmother was any good. They were all scheming bitches who put on a show but were really after my father's small fortune. I defended my stepmother a few times, and Grandma, furious, took her cane to beat me. "You damned brat, an ungrateful wolf raised by hand. That woman has only been here a few days and you've already forgotten your real mother? Serves you right that no one wants you." Once my stepmother took me out shopping and I ran off. I got hit by a car and had 5 stitches in my head. When I opened my eyes, my real mother, who hadn't messaged me all year, was holding me and sobbing uncontrollably. "My poor daughter. It's all your mother's fault." "It's my fault." I shoved her away. A flicker of embarrassment crossed my mother's face, then she pointed at my stepmother and spat curses. "You bitch, how dare you abuse my daughter? Do you think no one in this family cares? Don't you think of leaving until you explain yourself today?" All the relatives who had come along were righteously furious, spitting and shouting, demanding the stepmother explain herself. I stepped in front of my stepmother. "It was me who fell on my own, it's not Aunt Emily's fault." My mother wrapped her arms around me, twisting me desperately to face everyone. The perfume on her made me want to vomit. "Look at what this woman has done to Sarah. She even taught her to lie." I wrenched myself free from her. "Have you had enough pretending? How long do you plan to keep this up?" My mother's face froze. She glanced around the crowd in a panic. By then the photographer had long since slipped away. The reason she acted like this was obvious. My sister had recently been discovered by a talent scout, and my mother wanted to remove every obstacle on her behalf, naturally unwilling to be blamed for abandoning her daughter. On the contrary, she intended to use the stepmother to craft an image of herself as a benevolent parent, never expecting that I would see right through it. "You kid, I've just been too busy lately, of course I still care in my heart." "Really? Then pay my medical bills for me, 600 yuan in total." My mother twisted her fingers and began to wail about how hard it was to raise her younger sister alone, how ungrateful I, her eldest daughter, was. In the sunlight, the jade bangle on her wrist glittered. The stepmother, who had been silent the whole time, stood up and slapped the receipt onto my mother's face, her gaze sharp. "I'll pay this money. Now get out of here." My mother fell instantly silent. Actually, my stepmother wasn't wealthy, otherwise she wouldn't have married my father, that useless good-for-nothing. The family's purse strings were in my father's hands. Whenever it was time to pay for materials, my father would stare at me with those sullen eyes, fish a few crumpled bills out of a wad of cash, and slap them down on my head. "Study, study, study. If studying doesn't kill you, all you'll ever think about is money. I'd sooner raise a pig than raise you. Why should my money be spent by you? Next time figure it out yourself. If you can't pay, then get your ass to the factory and work." I was always worrying about living expenses. Right then, Ryan found me and tossed a wad of cash across. "Hey, want to make a deal?" Ryan was a year below me, a notorious little thug. At first the teachers called his parents in, but Ryan went straight to the office and assaulted a pregnant female teacher, causing a miscarriage. His parents didn't give a damn. In the end they paid off $700,000 or $800,000, and the matter was lightly let go. Ryan became famous overnight, his family ran a business, and when you have money you can do whatever you want. Ryan liked my sister, but they'd been fighting recently and hadn't spoken for days. He asked me to pretend to be his girlfriend to provoke her. I glanced over and estimated there was a little over 1,000 yuan, a very considerable sum for me. Ryan watched me crouch to pick up the money like someone watching a dog being fed scraps. "How's that? A surefire, never-fail business. What do you want me to do?" Ryan thought for a moment. "You write me a few apology letters, make them eloquent, then write 'Sophia I love you' 10,000 times, fold them into 1,000 paper cranes, and if all goes well, join me for a meal. Pay up." Huh? I pocketed the 1,000 yuan and negotiated terms with him. The apology letter, the 1,000 paper cranes, the meals, those are extra. We'll have to recalculate. At first Ryan hesitated, but my few words riled him up until his face flushed. "Who says I don't love Sophia enough? Here." Then he angrily tossed 3,000 yuan. A few days later I really couldn't sit still, especially when I saw Ryan chatting with me. She looked like she wanted to pounce and tear my face off, even biting her lips until they bled. One afternoon my father called me repeatedly, telling me to deliver something to Sophia. The classroom was empty, so I shoved the thing into the underside of a desk and left. The next day, Sophia ran into the office in floods of tears, utterly distraught, and demanded, "Sister, it's fine if you dislike me, but how could you steal money?" Sophia was a class officer. 3,000 yuan she had left on the desk went missing. It was the class's book fund. I asked to review the surveillance footage, but the teacher told me the school's electronic equipment was under repair those days and could not be checked. Sophia's eyes reddened. "It's okay, sister. As long as you dare to admit your mistake, at worst I'll pay him back for you. And don't get too close to Ryan. What if he does something shameful?" Silence fell around us. My real mother was the first to reach me. Hearing that, she rushed forward and kicked me in the chest. "You damned girl. You go around seducing men and corrupting your sister, I'll beat you to death." Sophia scrambled to the side in a panic, looking utterly innocent. "Huh? Did I say something wrong? But I clearly saw sister and Ryan in the grove yesterday." "Sophia, don't be afraid. Your sister is a born slut, her father doesn't want to deal with her, so today I'm going to teach this bastard child a lesson." I sprang up and laughed out loud. "Yes, I'm despicable, I'm a bastard, I was born but not raised, I have a mother by birth but no mother to raise me, my mother died when I was young." "What did you say? You little bitch, how dare you curse me?" My mom shrieked in anger. Just as the office descended into chaos, the door was flung open with a bang. My stepmother shielded me behind her and shouted sharply, "I'm Sarah's guardian. If you've got anything to say it to me. You're grown adults and you only know how to pick on a child, aren't you ashamed? Don't you fear shortening your own lives? All right then, let's settle this. Sarah stole money, what are we going to do about that?" My stepmother touched my face, leaned down and asked me softly, "Is what they're saying true?" I shook my head. My birth mother flew into a rage. "Don't pretend, you are the one. If you're not family you don't enter the same door, you slut. Where's the proof?" Sophia immediately jumped in. "Auntie, I saw it with my own eyes." The stepmother looked at her with meaning for a few seconds. "Whatever you say is what it is?" "I could have said you stole the money." "Young lady, being too clever isn't a good thing. Don't treat everyone like fools. Also, without evidence, you laid a hand on my daughter, I could sue you." "Are teachers dead? Just watching them misbehave and not stopping them?" The homeroom teacher smiled without smiling, trying to placate. "You did say there's no evidence. I think maybe we should just let it go." "I have evidence." I played the video, enjoying the way my birth mother's face shifted from blue to red, like an overinflated balloon that finally popped with a bang. The person in the video was my sister. Though the lighting was dim, it was not hard to see how intimate she and that boy were. 10 minutes later, Ryan lounged at the doorway. My mother flew into a rage, grabbed his collar and slapped him. "You little bastard, how dare you take such ideas to my daughter?" Ryan swung back and punched my mother. Her prosthetic nose flew off and struck the homeroom teacher in the face, making the situation extremely awkward. Sophia threw herself onto Ryan. "Mom, if you dare touch him, you might as well kill me too. I don't want to live." My mother nearly lost her breath in one gulp. I couldn't help but laugh. Only then did my mother notice me, and her tone softened instantly. "Sarah, can you just pretend none of this happened today? Your sister can't have any bad publicity right now." I drawled, "So she framed me for stealing on purpose." Before the words had finished, Sophia, very conscientiously, slapped herself, gentle enough that it didn't hurt as much as my mom twisting my arm. I stayed silent. My mom gritted her teeth and took a swing at Sophia's face from one side to the other, her torrent of scolding rising higher and higher. After the hits, Sophia's fake crying turned real. She was sobbing so hard she bent over, her face swollen like a pig's. My stepmother grabbed me and turned to leave. That night, my stepmother dabbed medicine on me by the desk lamp. She shot me a glance. "If you want to cry, go ahead, it's just us here. What if you hold it in and it makes you sick?" My birth mother hit hard, her kick to my chest still aches. I blinked. "I think I'm pretty impressive." Sophia got beaten even worse than I did. She couldn't take ads for days. I couldn't stop laughing. When I was about to sleep, my stepmother came to tuck my blanket. 2 shallow dimples appeared on her face. "That's right, you're really something. Good night." But soon I couldn't laugh anymore. My father suddenly stopped paying my tuition and made me go work in a factory. I was accepted to the city's key high school, but my father refused to pay my tuition no matter what. He had already made arrangements, packed my luggage for me, and was ready to leave at any moment. I remember kneeling for a long time that day. I said many flattering things, I even split my head open from bowing. I promised I would repay him 100-fold in filial piety and gratitude, as long as he would let me go to school. I wanted to study, this was my only way out. My tears didn't move my father. He smashed an ashtray on me and told me I was delusional, that I wasn't cut out for studying. I realized only later that this was Sophia's revenge on me. She was my parents' cash cow. Whenever she complained, my father would inevitably abandon me to satisfy her. I was 15 that year, dragging an empty suitcase and coming to the factory with strangers. I worked day and night without knowing the difference. The wounds on my hands split open, I couldn't feel the pain, I could only see pairs of numb, tired eyes behind the masks. No surprise, I would be buried here, become a walking corpse. The stepmother was that surprise. She appeared at the dormitory door and slapped me hard across the face. It was the first time she had hit me. She had grown thin, her skin darker, her hands trembling. She yelled at me, "Sarah, what are you trying to do? You're not studying now, what will you do in the future? If I hadn't come, did you plan to live like this for the rest of your life? You said you were going to get into a key school." For a fleeting moment I felt dazed. A key municipal school, that seemed like something from many years ago. I cradled her and sobbed my heart out. I wanted to go to school, but fate has a way of joking. This road was destined to be anything but smooth. My stepmother wiped away my tears, her gaze steady. Be good, don't cry. I have money, I'll pay for your schooling. She took me home. My father, though displeased, fell silent when he heard my stepmother was willing to pay. I got into the honors class, but I clearly struggled to keep up, hovering around 20th place. That rank was enough to get into a first-tier university, but it was a long way from my target, the 985 institutions. So my stepmother specially hired a private tutor to give me extra lessons. I never imagined this would be the beginning of my nightmare. The teacher's name was Mark. He seemed kind and friendly, but he always made small moves on me during tutoring. At first he used correcting homework as an excuse to touch my hand, later it developed into touching my face and ears. Gradually, he would, when I wasn't paying attention, press close to my butt, and would make suggestive jokes, which made me extremely uncomfortable. I knew my stepmother's money was hard-earned, and I didn't want to cause her trouble. For the sake of my studies, I endured Mark again and again. But Mark became more and more excessive, until one time when no one was home, he patted his own thigh and, grinning, told me to sit on it. I refused, and he threatened me. In a panic, I smashed his skull with a glass. When my stepmother came back, Mark sobbed and blew his nose as he told her, "I'm sorry, I really can't teach this child. Her homework was bad, so I just criticized her a few times, and she actually hit me." My father told me to apologize, but I refused. He pointed at me and cursed, "Sarah, I gave you face. If you don't apologize, get out, what are you even learning for? I should have left you to die working in the factory, you would have never gotten out of there." Mark put on an act, pretending to intervene. Before he left he took the chance to touch my face again, his tone suggestive, "Kids don't understand. You should make Sarah think it over some more." He laughed triumphantly, his look plain as day saying, "See? Your parents believe me now, what can you possibly do?" My nails digging into my flesh, my whole body trembling, I wanted desperately to tell the truth, but I couldn't. The shadow of my childhood pressed down on me like a mountain. When I was 9, I went out to play and met an old man nearby. He offered me candy and led me into his shabby house. Grinning, he asked if the candy was good, I nodded. He said he would give me more treats if I let him touch me. The old man was strong. I remember crying and struggling. I ran out into an endless field, he limped after me, and I could see no end in sight. I ran home and, sobbing, told my mother. Instead, the old man turned it around and accused me of trampling his seedlings, demanding compensation. My mother, face cold, slapped me furiously, a faint saltiness spread across my mouth. "Jinx, all you do is get me into trouble. Why didn't you die out there? Wha? Useless, debt collector. Cry one more time and I'll strangle you, damn it." My mother forced me to apologize to the old man, and even pinned the whole thing on my wearing a floral dress. The floral dress became a symbol of my shamelessness. After that day, I never wore a dress again. This time, I was scared. If I told the truth, would it end up swept under the rug like before? Why did it have to be me? My stepmother noticed something was off. After sending Mark away, she knocked on the door. I burrowed into the covers and refused to answer. My stepmother sighed, just like the first time we met when I was 11, she picked me up, her gaze gentle and steady. "Sarah, I'm here. Tell me, what exactly happened?" When Mark came to my house again, he didn't even bother to pretend. Within minutes he was groping my leg with his hand, leering at me. I held back my nausea, grabbed a fruit knife and jabbed wildly. Mark screamed, my blade had pierced his palm. His face twisted as he lunged to hit me, and my stepmother rushed in, snatching a clothes-drying rack and smashing it over his head with all her might. "You pervert, you mess with my daughter. You mess with my daughter." My stepmother wanted to report him with the evidence. Mark panicked, dropped to his knees and beat his head against the floor, wailing and begging for mercy. "Please don't report me, my wife will never forgive me if she finds out. I'll give you money, 500,000, is that enough? If it's not, I'll add more. Please, let me go. I don't want to go to prison. When my father heard that, he tried to persuade me to take the deal. My stepmother struck him too, knocking out 2 of his front teeth. David, I'm telling you, if you agree, I'll have you thrown in jail. And we're done, divorce. My stepmother's frenzy was terrifying. My father covered his face and didn't dare make a sound. My stepmother then replaced me with an older female tutor. I devoted almost all my time to studying, and in the latest mock exam I climbed to 5th place in the class. She was so happy she wanted to take me out for a big meal. I said I only wanted to eat the food she made. Back home, the lights were dim. My stepmother came out holding a cake. Happy 18th birthday, Sarah. My stepmother looked a little nervous. I happened to see your diary and it said you wanted a strawberry cake. I didn't mean to peek. I blew out the candles and smiled at her. Thank you, Mom. I really like it. The birthday cake that used to belong only to my little sister, the exclusive favor reserved for her, after 18 years, had finally been passed into my hands. My stepmother's eyes were red. My birth mother spent nearly 200,000 to shove Sophia into the same school as me. In 3 years, we barely saw each other. She got prettier and more rebellious, wearing smoky eye makeup and puffing clouds with a gang of little bad girls in the bathroom. Occasionally I'd bump into my birth mother at the school gate. She always asked about my grades. When I said they were SOSO, she beamed with pride and shot me the occasional eye roll. Humph, I knew it. Good thing I didn't take you in the divorce, studying your life away every day, and your grades still can't beat your sister's. You? In the future you won't even be fit to tie your sister's shoes. I smiled without speaking. Sophia's cheating had long been the talk of the school, the most outrageous time she'd jumped from over 100th from last in the grade to 2nd place, earning the nickname Tech Sister. Only my mother remained in the dark. Another mock exam came up. This time the papers were tightly secured and you couldn't buy the answers. After the test, the school held an awards assembly for the 2nd and 3rd years. My birth mother wore sunglasses, her nose in the air, telling everyone, "How could you know Sophia is my daughter? Oh, she's nothing special, just first in the grade, nothing to be proud of." My stepmother came too. My mother deliberately raised her voice, "So what if we share a mother? Some people are born with pig brains, no genes can save them." Everyone knew Sophia and I were full sisters, so of course they couldn't help whispering. I patted my stepmother to reassure her. There were 2 moments that caused a stir in the whole hall. The first was when I came first in the grade. My stepmother went up beaming to give a speech, the audience erupted in applause, and parents eager for tips surrounded her so tightly there was no way through. The second was when Sophia's name was called. My birth mother shot up in an instant, standing perfectly straight at the waist, and ended up being torn apart by the head of year. "Sophia, you have repeatedly broken the rules and cheated, conducted romances on campus, caused a bad influence, and despite repeated admonitions have not corrected your behavior." My mother's eyes went wide. She snatched my sister's report card, the 6 subjects total adding up to exactly 250, and bellowed on the spot, "Sophia, get over here." In the end, after Sophia threatened all sorts of dramatic things, my birth mother agreed to take her home to homeschool her, promising she'd return to school for the college entrance exam. She even told me, "Just wait, you haven't seen me seriously study yet, I'm only holding back my true ability." 3 months later, I took the Gaokao and scored a total of 622, above the cutoff for the university I was aiming for, and I chose the major I loved. On the day the results came out, I ran all the way there. My stepmother was wiping tables in the cafeteria. I rushed up and hugged her tightly. "Mom, I got in." My stepmother hummed twice, turned away to wipe her tears, and someone nearby leaned over and asked, "Is this your daughter? She's truly outstanding." I nodded and said loudly, "Yes, she is my mother." During college, my stepmother once came to see me carrying bags and bags. At noon I treated her to a meal and saw that she had pinned my contact at the top of her phone, labeled Xiao Guai. Over the years, her care for me has far exceeded that of my birth mother. She remembers my tastes, remembers my menstrual cycle. She has attended my parent-teacher meetings countless times, patiently learning about my studies without ever growing tired. Her phone is full of my photos, me in new clothes, me traveling, me winning awards. If I didn't say anything, no one would guess she is my stepmother. She was the kind of mother I would have longed for when I was 6 or 7. She is now, and she will be in the future. After graduation, I found a well-paid job, and later I followed senior classmates into a startup, gradually building my own company. I bought my stepmother a luxury car, then took her out of that little house she used to live in and moved her into a big villa. My stepmother couldn't resist showing it off in a post, and overnight relatives from all over the world came swooning. My father summoned me home for dinner that night. Aunts and cousins glared and ogled me, calling out more affectionately than the last, "Oh my, isn't this Sarah? I held you when you were little, even gave you $50. Don't you remember? Well, Sarah has made it big now, and we relatives get to bask in the glow. Sarah could get your cousin a general manager job. Family shouldn't be all formalities." Yeah, I heard Sarah treats her stepmother like gold, even moved into a villa. Let me be fair, don't say stepmother. Even if she were your own mother, she'd still be an outsider. Who's closer to you than us? Sarah, don't you ever forget where you came from. Everyone was talking up a storm, all reminding me not to forget to honor my father. My dad was plastered drunk, his eyes glittering as he looked at me. I said, "Okay, I'll be filial to him, for sure." The smile on my father's face hadn't faded. I grabbed the bottle and smashed it down on his head. Blood gushed out, everyone gasped. I pulled him up, slapping him as I counted, 1, 2, 3. Sarah, you're crazy. That's your dad. I wiped my hands with a tissue. I know. I'm just repaying him in the only way he ever repaid me. When I was 5, my father lost everything in the stock market. He came home drunk, kicked open the bedroom door, and dragged me out of bed even though I was already asleep. What are you sleeping for? I've lost everything and you still have the nerve to sleep. Get up. It's all your fault. You made me lose money, you might as well die. I curled up in the corner, crying and pleading. I begged him to stop, trying to wake whatever faint fatherly love he had with my tears. I can cook, I don't need parents to drive me. I ranked first in the class, I saved money to buy them gifts. I did my best to prove to my parents that I wasn't a burden. But my father's blows grew harsher and harsher. I nearly passed out. My mother stuck half her head out and shouted angrily, "Shut up. If you're going to hit, take it outside." Sophia finally fell asleep. Through a shared wall, my sister lay in her princess bed, listening to a fairy tale and drifting off peacefully. I was thrown out like a little chick and shivered in the stairwell at -6 or 7 degrees. Those relatives fell silent for a moment, then said, "But after all, he's your father. Besides, we've treated you well over the years, you can't be ungrateful." I pulled back the last fig leaf. When I was a child, my cousin stole 2,000 yuan from the house and insisted I took it. Second aunt beat me until my eardrum ruptured. My younger cousin asked me to help with his homework and when I refused he kicked me with all his might. And third uncle. You really did treat me well, didn't you? The group went red in the face and stammered, unable to speak. I walked up to my father, swung my arm and slapped him again. In his stunned eyes I enunciated each word, "Dad, from now on I will surely be filial to you." Half a month earlier, my father had suddenly changed his ways. Not only did he proactively add me on social media, he even, for the first time, transferred me the whopping sum of 6 yuan and 60 cents. He messaged me constantly, things like "It's cold, wear more clothes, if you're short on money tell your dad, Daddy will always love you." I said fine, then transfer 1,000 yuan to help me out. My dad suddenly disappeared, and the next day he kept sending a string of nonsense. See, that's my dad. He knows exactly how unreasonable he is. Now that I'm financially independent and he's grown old, he's terrified I won't support him, so he starts offering his cheap love. All my life, whenever he could have stepped in to stop it, or said a few words on my behalf, I wouldn't be in such a mess. As long as they didn't divorce, as long as coming home meant a hot meal, as long as there was a warm bed to sleep in, as long as it didn't touch his interests, what if they beat me to death? I would always be the pathetic one sacrificed. People always praise the meat when eating it and curse the dishes when washing them. My father eats and grabs at the same time, and the moment he puts down his chopsticks he starts cursing my mother. That's my father, utterly useless, and utterly self-satisfied. After I started working, my own mother came to see me a few times. Sophia took the college entrance exam, claimed she'd been admitted to some prestigious university, and even brought home an acceptance letter. My mother threw a big banquet and rewarded her with 50,000 yuan to go traveling. But when the start of term came, Sophia refused to go to school no matter what. My mother dragged her there by force, and when the staff checked, they said, "Sorry, there's no one named Sophia on our admissions list." My mother was stunned. She beat and kicked Sophia, demanding to know what was going on. Sophia sank to her knees with a thud and confessed that she had fabricated the acceptance letter online. Then my mother checked her Gaokao score, 157 points. Yes, it was the total of 6 subjects, 157 points, not even passing the vocational college cutoff. My mother forced Sophia to repeat the year and even paid large sums to hire a famous tutor. In less than a week the teacher quit, no one would stay on even for double pay. So another year passed in a daze. When the Gaokao results came out, Sophia scored 124 points, worse than the year before. My mother was furious, insisting she repeat again. Sophia rubbed her belly with a sweet smile and said she was already pregnant with Ryan's child and would marry him. My mother rolled her eyes and collapsed straight to the floor. By the time she woke up from the hospital, Sophia and Ryan had already publicly announced they had registered their marriage. Worse still, my mother had grown a tumor in her brain, and it was malignant. Only then did she think of me, sobbing with snot and tears, saying she had been blind back then, couldn't see people clearly, that I was her beloved darling, her good daughter. I couldn't help but laugh. My mother looked at my face cautiously. "Daughter, you wouldn't abandon me and do nothing, would you? You will save me, right?" "I'm your mother." I replied coldly, "Ms. Linda, when we divorced you told me in person that from then on I was no longer your daughter, and in just a few years you've already forgotten?" My mother smiled awkwardly. "Back then I had no choice either. You're the older sister, your sister was still little, I had to give one up." "Is that so? Then I'm going to give you up now too. I hope you'll understand." My mother finally put on her true face. She pounded the bed and shouted, "Sarah, get back here. I'm your mother, it's only natural for a daughter to support her mother. If you don't take care of me, I'll sue you. I'll make a scene at your company and let everyone see what kind of person you are." I looked back at her, her tone suddenly grew painfully humble. "I'm begging you, Sarah, please save me. I don't want to die. I know you have the money to treat me. Sarah, Mom actually loves you very much. It's all that bastard your father's fault, he's always egging me on. Mrs. Linda, do you remember I used to love eating fish and shrimp when I was little?" I remember. "Once Mom gets better, I'll make you a whole table of fish and shrimp." I said softly, "That's wrong, the one who loved fish and shrimp was my sister. I'm allergic to seafood. I don't want to keep bringing up those past events, but I have no choice. I must repeatedly tear open the scabbed wounds and display them before everyone to win the sympathy of public opinion. It's my way of protecting myself." In the end I paid. Linda's brain cancer was terminal. I spent money to hang on to her life, untreatable, yet not allowed to die. She kept vomiting, running fevers, was paralyzed from the waist down, incontinent. In the end she struggled violently in bed, begging me to unplug her tubes so she could die quickly and without pain. Of course I didn't do it. Even the doctors advised me to stop treatment, but I insisted on fighting it. When Linda finally went, she was no longer herself, and people still praised me for being so filial. As for Sophia, after she married Ryan, he beat her so badly she had a miscarriage, and less than 3 months later, Sophia was pregnant again. Now the fans wouldn't stand for it. After her first miscarriage, hordes of netizens had earnestly urged her to get a divorce. Sophia would verbally agree while taking the opportunity to accept lucrative endorsements, and now she was pregnant again. Was she treating her fans like fools? Sophia had started as a child model and occasionally acted in short dramas. Since becoming pregnant, her waist had thickened, spots had appeared on her face, and her skin had slackened. No matter how much money she spent, she couldn't get back to how she looked before. Coupled with revelations about her college entrance exam scores and cheating, Sophia became the target of mass ridicule and gradually faded from the public eye. My father came to my place causing a scene, demanding that I support him in his old age. I followed the law and gave him the minimum subsistence allowance, then changed my phone number, blocked all his contacts, and hurriedly took my stepmother abroad. While my stepmother and I were admiring the little penguins in New Zealand, a friend called me. "Did you know? Your dad asked Sophia for money, they got into a fight, and ended up falling from the 12th floor, he was smashed beyond recognition." After hanging up, I let out a long sigh. Mom came over and squeezed my hand tightly. Every person who isn't related to you by blood but treats you well is a gift from heaven. On the first day of spring, I was free.